Hello and welcome. I'm Mr. Pasta.
And I'm Miss Pasta.
And welcome to our channel. Here we're going to be reading a true story, Old Man. So sit back
and get comfortable.
I don't know how scary you will find this, but I can tell you that I was horrified. When I was around 12 years old, my parents rented an old shingle house in Massachusetts, about a mile from the beach. We were staying there for the summer, and we were all pumped for 3 months in historic New England. The house was previously owned by a woman named Virginia. She was unmarried and lived there for many years with her elderly father, whom I didn't know the name of. She was a perfectly normal woman who rode horses and kept a beautiful garden across the street. My parents had never met her father, and we only talked to her a few times, as the transaction was done mostly through a realtor. The house was quite nice. It looked small from the outside, but once you were inside, there were countless small rooms. There were many cupboards and closets, and 2 slender spiral staircases leading up to one of the 4 tiny rooms upstairs. One of these rooms were mine. Being 12 years old and having an overreactive imagination, I was terrified of staying upstairs by myself at night. My parents slept downstairs in a room that was a new addition of the house, and I hated the idea that they were so far away. Finally, after a few sleepless nights and plenty of power tears, my parents agreed to let me sleep downstairs in the old living room, which had a fireplace and 2 doors, one leading to the kitchen and one to the new living room. I was extremely happy with this arrangement, and I felt sure that I would finally be able to fall asleep at night. That night, after saying goodbye to my parents, I lay down on the pull-out sofa, contented, but not for long. Immediately, after closing my eyes, I felt the weirdest sensation, as if I was being watched, or like someone was just over my shoulder. I opened my eyes, fearing the worst, but no one was there. The room was silent. I was completely alone. A little unnerved, I shut my eyes again, and once again felt the presence. It's a little hard to explain, but you know how blind people are more able with their senses? It was like that. Even when I opened my eyes a second time and saw no one, I knew there was a man in the room. I can't really explain, but I felt certain that there was a man watching me sleep. However, since I had no evidence, I just shut my eyes, curled in a ball, and fell into an uneasy sleep. Fast forward to 2 weeks. One of my friends was staying the night, and of course, we were downstairs. Despite her protest that we should sleep upstairs, I insisted we stay down. Even though nothing ever happened upstairs, I was a little wary. That night, after gossiping for a few hours, the way only 2 12-year-old girls can, we fell asleep. I should mention that I never said anything about the man in the living room. That's where we were staying. I didn't want my friend to panic. I slept soundly that night. I guess it was probably because I had someone with me. The next morning, when I woke up, my friend was already awake and staring at me.
Katie,
she said.
I'm not crazy, but last night in the middle of the night, I woke up and I felt like...
Oh my God, I said. Did you feel like there was a man watching you sleep?
At first,
she said, her voice quavering.
But when I opened my eyes, there was an old man standing in the doorway to the kitchen. He smiled at me and then left.
Our eyes grew wide as we stared at each other in terror, and then slowly turned to the door. We had shut it the night before, but now it was open, just a crack. I told my parents about this after my friend left, and they disregarded it, thinking I was just letting my imagination get the better of me. But at the end of the summer, when I went home and I had internet service again, I searched the history of the house. Virginia had lived there for almost 20 years with her elderly father, a registered sex offender who was diagnosed with dementia at the age of 83. He returned to the house with his daughter and died a few months later in the house.